So I'm approaching 30 and I'm actually quite looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to being 30 because actually the more I reflect on it, the more I've disliked being young, I think. Because when you're young, no one takes you seriously. No one takes you seriously because you are young and you're inexperienced and you're youthful and you've done nothing with your life. And it's always from the old, you have to take this, the old who are like, we're so much more experienced than you. We've been around, we know the world, and you don't. You don't. You're just a mere stripling, a little youth, and you know nothing of the world. But I think when you hit 30, you get to say, no, I know something about the world now. I might not know everything that there is to know about it, but I've been around. 30 years is a hell of a long time to have been alive. And, in that time, you do build experience, you do gain wisdom and understanding and knowledge, and you should have achievements by this point. I think you should have done something with your life, or at least tried to. And I'm very grateful that I'm the sort of person who I have tried things with my life. I've tried several business ventures, two business ventures, neither of which were successful. Um, since, well, no one wanted to invest in them, or I didn't really seek investment from anyone else. My family didn't want to invest, and that's really actually what caused me to, lose heart with it all, that they didn't want to invest. And yeah, no one really seemed to be that infused with what I was doing, unfortunately, or seemed to be. And then I think, some of them even have potential, like that still have potential, like the political social networking site I was trying to start. That might still have potential, and the publishing house might still have potential. I don't know, as a brand. I thought Eschaton Publishing was quite a good, cool name for it, a good brand that I built. Published my first book under that, or my novella under that. I wrote a novella. I wrote a novel as well in my 20s. I wrote my first novel when I was 23. I've then written mountains of poetry, been doing stand-up comedy for 7 years. Yeah, I'm glad I've gotten out there and I've done things that I wanted to do. I tried to solve quantum gravity, I've been a farmer also. I've milked cows for 18 months full time. I'd absolutely love the job. Yeah, would definitely do it again. If there's any milking work going, hopefully get my driving license back soon so I can become a relief milker like I really want to. And yeah, live a fine life in the countryside, writing poetry, milking cows, doing whatever really. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about myself, but I'm just 29 years old. Also, I'm just 29 years old. Irrespective of the fact that I smoke, I can expect to live another 45 years or 50 years, I reckon. I reckon I've got 50 years ahead of me now. I reckon I'll live to 79 at least. Yes. Which gives me what? No, that's 49. I reckon I'll live till I'm 80. Yes, I've got 40 years ahead of me. No, 50 years. I'm so bad at maths. I'm terrible. Really bad at maths, I am. Yeah, 50 years of life left till if I live till I'm 80. I reckon I'll live till I'm 80. If I don't get killed or something in the process, or like over the next few years, or if I don't have an accident or something like that, then yeah, I could expect to live till I'm 80, I reckon. That's a long time. It's a very long time to be alive, is it not? Is it like T.S. Eliot said, we live a long time? And that's worth bearing in mind, is it not? That you have a lot of time at your disposal in life. Yeah, that's a very, very important thing to learn, I think. It's an important thing to understand and to appreciate. There's a long time ahead of you from the time that you're 18 to the time that you're 80. 62 years. Whoa. I mean, on one level, what an incredible gift, but also what an incredible risk it presents. You might fritter away time needlessly and get into bad habits and so on, and develop a shoddy work ethic and spin your wheels endlessly in life, not really get anywhere with anything, and get nothing done, and have no accomplishments and achievements. But you might, well, I mean, you might also then use your time wisely. You might, yeah. I think waking yourself up to the fact that you've got this huge amount of time ahead of you in life, really irrespective of how old you are, well, like even if you're 60, you could live for another 20 years. And that's a long time. Like, or you could live to your 90 or 100, you don't know. It's rather daunting, isn't it? Can be. But I think with practice, with practice it gets easier, doesn't it? Living. Yeah, with life, once you practice life enough, it gets easier. It becomes more manageable. That's why I've been looking forward to getting old. Yeah, like now I'm at the age I've been homeless 3 times. I've been broke. I've been destitute. I've learned how to cope with being in those sorts of situations. I've learned how to get myself out of those situations to the best of my ability. I'm teetering on the edge of that situation right now, actually, but it's all for reasons outside my control, really. I've ended up in this situation. Well, actually, it wasn't. I smoked weed ridiculously in my room at Plumpton College, and they kicked me out for it. I wasn't expecting them to quite kick me out, but I mean, apparently it's my final warning. I didn't have any warnings before then. They're horrible, so draconian. I'm a bloody adult. Like, can you imagine that happening at any university around the country? As in, like, over 18s, obviously, student accommodation. Because they have a university there. Well, they do university level courses also at Plumpton. So it's like, you're being ridiculous. This is an over 18s halls of residence. Why are you kicking me out and smoking a bit of herb in my room? It's a totally trumped up utter nonsense, but whatever. Yeah, I've lived my life. I really have as well. I've lived on the edge. I've lived on the streets of Amsterdam. I was homeless in Amsterdam for about 2 months. No, 6 weeks all told. That was hard going. That was a hard road I was walking then. But that improved me doing that. I don't know, like I must have walked 2,500 kilometers during that period of time. I went there seeking like something like enlightenment, or I don't know, spiritual fulfillment or something like that. I was also seeking to get away from danger, or what I perceived to be danger. Enlightening myself about that, my opinion about that hasn't changed actually. Take psilocybin often to try and address my mental health problems, which I think it really, really helped with. I think it certainly aided with that process, the psilocybin, and it put me on a far more of an even keel. It didn't block, however, any of the justifiable rage, anger, and disgust I feel at my family, and for the way that they've been treating me over the years, and for the way they continue to treat me. And their narcissism and their bigotry and their ill-educated perspective on mental illness and mental health, and just falling straight for the Dunning-Kruger traps all over the place, and having a false impression of what my mental health is, and what my mental illness is and has been, and a false impression of its causes, and they're also trying to slander me on the basis of those causes, which they know full well, and which they're lying about to try and cover up. Yeah, that is what's going on. They're trying to cover up neglect and child abuse. But which puts me in a very difficult position, because I'm just one person saying this. No one else has witnessed to it other than them, or other than them and the carers that the various carers that we had over the years, like Hilda and Unkeby and Leda and the others. I don't know. go through a list of her carers over the years and figure out what's been going on from them, if they're willing to tell the truth about what my mother was doing, what she was allowing to have happen to me. But there we go. She wouldn't be, or she'd plead ignorance, which she isn't. She's not ignorant, but she had enough of it herself from Rob. And probably still a bit of a love of the captor going on, I reckon. But that Stockholm syndrome and whatever else was ugly family shit. Needed to deal with that in my mind. So I went there. Yeah, and I've still got problems, obviously. I've still got things in my life that make me unhappy and upset. I mean, I've digested those to quite a great extent, and I've learned how to cope with all that stuff. And the constant, internal feelings of, what they try to indoctrinate you with in the family environment, a feeling of inferiority all the time, or they try to make you feel inferior to them all the time in the family. They're like the old matriarchs, and they know everything, or the patriarchs, and they know everything, trying to make you feel like they're inferior. And or it'll be over something like smoking. I smoke now, so I'm your inferior, apparently. And it's all this sort of stuff, this utter bilge nonsense. Racism, a lot of racism in the family, a lot of homophobia, a lot of transphobia, which I experienced firsthand from all my family, including my sister, actually, which I was disgusted by. She's of the 21st century, she's of my generation, or even the generation below me or whatever. But no, she should not be behaving in that way. It's absolutely repugnant. You're saying, oh, you're not transgender. Like, how dare you? How dare you say that? You have no lived experience of myself and my own gender identity. What's wrong with you? You're a proto-fascist, preening little turf. You're an uneducated little hillbilly girl. That's what you sound like. You sound like a spoiled, posh hillbilly. Racist scum, more or less. Or similar thing. So I've still got that horrifying animosity with my family that's built up all over the years. But in my life, I have amazing moments. I have amazing times away from them. I have great people I've met in my life, particularly doing comedy. Met a lot of people that way, and a lot of musicians, actually. And these are fantastic guys, great girls, lovely people I've met. Made some wonderful friends in life. I've been out there and I've lived fully, and I've lived well, I think. I haven't lived a half life of any description, or I haven't put off life until a later date. I've gone out and I've lived, I've done what I wanted to do. And I think for that I'll be thankful always to myself. And to myself for doing it. And it wasn't my parents who motivated me to do it. It wasn't anyone else who motivated me to do it. It was all off my own back. I always wanted to do stand-up comedy, and I went out and did it. I might continue doing it. And I might continue doing writing, poetry. Yeah, I mean, always write poetry. Always try and write my novels. I'm working on several at the moment, which is causing something of a creative bottleneck that I need to get out of somehow. And just generally always seek to improve myself. I always do that. I do that every single day. I try to make myself a little better somehow, either by writing and improving my practice there, or reading. That's huge, obviously. Learning about various different things, and reading more poetry in particular, because that's something I want to master. I want to master poetic style and all this sort of thing, write beautiful poems. Maybe as much as I want to write novels, and great novels, and cool, interesting stories and things like this. And my journalistic exploits, trying to expose the NHS police for corruption, which I was involved in firsthand, I decided to report on. And yeah, my various writings on various different subjects. My quantum gravity work, I forgot about that. I'm spending many years researching quantum gravity, trying to solve the hardest problem in in physics, in theoretical physics, or physics' greatest outstanding problem of how gravity and quantum mechanics synthesize or go together, or cohere or cooperate. So yes, very much looking forward to being 30. Very thankful to my past self for being motivated enough to try and pursue these sorts of things. I think my past self struggled a lot with organizational abilities and very often got burned out and would or despondent or disaffected and lose interest with things like creative projects and so on. And yeah, not and sort of gain a dim view of his potential. Because again, it had all this abusive family stuff in the back. You're never good enough. You'll never match up to anything. You'll never match up to your sister. All this sort of stuff. Yeah, I've got a major hang up about that. I do actually, because she was always treated as though she was better than I was, and it's for being female as well. Is this kind of reverse positive discrimination, feminist sexism? That's what was going on. This kind of, man-hating feminazi attitude from the women in the family as well. This was feminine abuse. And there was also alcoholic male abuse of me. Or yeah, I had to deal with that as well, in addition to it. Repugnant men and awful women. Actually, my nan, my father's mother, is one of the only good people in the family, I think. Or one of the only, or maybe she's even got an antiquated, dim view of mental illness herself. She's just as bad as the rest of them are. I don't know, but whatever. Yeah, I don't like them. They're like the worst of countryside people. They are the racists. They are the homophobes. They are the sexists. It's the worst element of who we are as people in the countryside. It makes people not want to be around us, or it makes people hate us, and it ultimately leads to people like vegans, hating on farmers and so on. Then we hate on them, and they hate on us, and it's a vicious cycle. It just reiterates itself. The more we can be accepting and tolerant and open, the more we can just realise that we're all the fucking same, really, and stop pathetic fighting. And stop hating on people for their differences that mean nothing, or for their unimportant and superficial differences. But yeah, it's I'm trans, for instance, but that's not the core of who I am. Or actually, it is the core of who I am. It might always part of the core of who I am. It's part of my gender, which is quite an intricate thing, or quite a subtle and complex thing, as part of one's personality, I think. But yeah, I don't know. It's superficial. No, I wouldn't say it's superficial. Yeah, it's pretty deep, actually. So it's not an unimportant difference. It's very important to a lot of people, isn't it? What their gender is. And you should recognise that, and should appreciate it, and not discriminate, and so on. Not stigmatise and look down upon people for being different on that level. So yeah, almost 30. Fucking cigarettes. It's tobacco. I'm smoking Marlboro Gold. It makes me sick from time to time. It makes me chuck up a little bit, but it's very cheap, so I buy it still. Yeah. Maybe I should give up smoking. The only reason I give up smoking, though, is because of the cost of it, because it's so bloody expensive. It's the only sensible reason for giving up smoking, in my opinion. There we go. Yeah, I'm very thankful that I've had the life experiences that I had. Not everything was perfect. I think things could have been a lot better in my life for various reasons. For instance, I could have not left UCU in the Netherlands and got a degree there. I think that would have led to a better life for me. Definitely. But then again, I was getting bullied there and I was having social problems there with people. But then again, that's really just my Asperger's self at 19 and 20, not really being able to cope with it all and having to go through yet more periods of gaining social ability and social adeptness and overcoming an autistic lack of confidence and shyness, learning things like how to make eye contact with people and maintain it, which I still am very bad at doing, or still don't like doing, or still fills me with anxiety whenever I do it. And yeah, trying to being more of a normal human being. So I faced great challenges in my 20s, huge adversity. I think I've stood up to that adversity in an admirable way. For instance, being deprived of my driving license and trying to forge a career in agriculture, I did manage to, at huge lengths, or at huge personal cost to myself, and emotional and physical and psychological cost to myself, acquire 18 months experience in dairy farming. Is very, very difficult without a driving license. Very, very difficult without that little avenue of escape and that freedom. And if that hadn't happened to me, that would have been a lot better for me. I would have had a better life. If I hadn't been spiked at University of East Anglia, I would have had a better life, but I would have had a better life still if I hadn't gone to the University of East Anglia at all, and I'd gone to somewhere like Hartpury or Harper Adams to study a degree in agriculture instead. But I was never encouraged to do that, even though I'd said several times I wanted to do that, and I clearly wanted to do it. So it's fucked. And that could have led into a world of different career opportunities, science careers, all this sort of thing, agronomy, whatever else. And, you know, I eventually tried to sign up to an ag degree at Reading and got on it. But the student finance didn't come through, so I had to drop out. Horrible. Horrible life I've had on a lot of levels. Really big challenges, big hurdles to overcome, barriers to employment, all these sorts of things. Mental illness is one of those. You know, I've been sectioned many times under the Mental Health Act, often for illegal reasons and for an illegal reason in the first instance. Yep, they did. They planted fucking drugs on me and sectioned me under the Mental Health Act when I went to them saying that a police officer might try to kill me again. When I accused him of attempted murder or conspiracy to commit murder in the first instance, and then said that I was worried that he might do it again or try to do it again. And that was my big concern all the time at UEA. He did, however, leave the flat at some point. So, like, he left before I did, and it was something to do with him and Siobhan. He was another flatmate of ours, but I think that was all bogus bullshit. I think he got mixed up in Briar's little game, or he was there deliberately to hatch a little game, or various people there for that reason. All this has been fraudulently characterised as delusional. However, there's no evidence that incontrovertibly undermines my beliefs. It's also a political opinion since it pertains to government corruption. And for this reason, the attempt to medicate me for it is an attack upon my freedom of conscience and belief. If I had to undergo human rights abuses and what I would characterise as torture in my life, and my life has actually always been incredibly hard. Well, I've lived a hard life for a very long time, actually, since I was a young teenager at least. or since I was an adolescent at least, or since I was about 11 or 12. Or actually, at least since my mother's accident and all the fallouts that happened after that, for the many years of abuse that followed. I was living a hard life all that time, but still managing to find joy in my life, and finding joy in my life of my own accord and in spite of the abuse. And for that, I'm thankful to myself and not to my abusers, even though they even gave me like a book by this idiot called Richard Bach called Thank Your Wicked Parents. Like, no, don't thank them at all. They have nothing to be thanked for. Very loving families produce people like Richard Feynman. There's no Will Hunting effect. There's no effect of abuse leads to genius, which is like what they like try and assert or something, isn't it? No, that's a total bit of nonsense, rubbish, pseudoscience. That's pseudoscience waiting to happen. No, abuse does not lead to greatness at all. So there.